I'm holding a microphone, so I'll start.
Thank you.
So incidentally, for anyone wondering why I'm holding a microphone and there's no PA in here, the reason is that we have a bunch of people joining us online on our live stream. So welcome everyone on our live stream today. So this goes to the live stream, and I just want to partly reminding myself, but also my panelists, is that if we don't talk into the microphone, our live stream people don't hear us. So we'll remember that. Right, hi everyone. My name is Anthony Marta. I am one of the organisers of tonight's event from ProductTank Auckland. Huge thanks to IABA for hosting us today and collaborating on this event. I'm also the chair of Product Aotearoa, where we bring together product people from across New Zealand. That's my night job. My day job is Chief Product Officer and currently acting CTO at Solar Zero. We're hiring, by the way. We're happy to have a conversation about hiring roles later on. I've been in product for about 10 years. I was in engineering before that. Before joining Solar Zero, I was most recently doing consulting and coaching, helping organizations to do product better. But now I'm trying to solve climate change, which is amazing. It's a great, fantastic mission, and I'm really enjoying it. And I'll pass on to Zoe.
Thank you. Hi all, my name is Zoe Steadhall. Previously I've worked in Australia, the UK and New Zealand in project and program management. I've worked across a broad variety of industries and had experience leading delivery of a broad range of initiative types. My background's always been in the the project and program space, so really starting from project coordinator, operations, senior project manager and program manager. What all of the roles and initiatives that I've worked with have had in common is that they've really required someone to come in and be really strong in the execution and delivery space, work with engaging stakeholders, bringing them along on the journey and making sure that I'm removing any blockers for them and really able to execute to scope on time, delivery, budget, etc., etc. One of the areas of niche expertise that I bring to the roles that I have is a really broad depth of knowledge of the product or service that the organisation is delivering, that really aligns quite well to the collaboration between product and BA roles as well, in terms of that high level strategic overview and understanding of business objectives. And that's me.
Hello everyone, I'm Temur. I'm a business analyst at Fidelity Life. Most of my career has been in technology solutions delivery. I've actually never worked in BAU. Before moving to New Zealand, I worked in Asia and Middle East, where I was working for some large organizations delivering strategic change that was focused on technology and business changes. My background is mostly in project delivery, business analysis, where I've worked with project managers, product managers. I'm also the lead organizer for IIBA events in Auckland. That's what I do. And when I'm not working, I'm hiking and climbing mountains around Auckland.
That's great introduction. And I believe many of us can't wait to hear your insight on the topic tonight. Since our panelists come from project management, product management, and business analysis, here is my first question. What's your understanding of each other's roles and how they fit into your current organization?
I'm going to start with the easy question then, right? Well, I'm actually going to start with Ty. So.
Yes. So as a business analyst, we always work with product managers and project managers. There is a slight difference between product managers and project managers, where product managers, they are focused on the product life cycle. While project managers, they've got specific scope and deliverable. They finish the deliverable, they move to the next piece of work. But product managers, they actually live with that product. How business analysts, they support these roles is when they're working with a project manager, they actually, because there's a concept in project management called progressive elaboration, where the project scope is clarified over time. That's where business analysts, they support project managers. One, defining that scope, clarifying it over time, managing risks with the project managers. And in terms of product managers, they support product managers by holding the value lens. Because product managers, they function at a slightly higher level. Business analysts, they actually go dive deep in the dungeons, get the correct facts, and then reflect it to the product management to make sure that the assumptions that they've made, the value claims, all those they hold true, and they actually deliver value to the end users and customers.
Do you want to go next? So at a high level for me, the product manager's really the what and the why, the BA's the how, and the project manager's the executor. So by that, the way that I like to work within the three roles is that the product manager really is driving the strategy, understanding what's most helpful and what initiatives are going to help most in achieving that strategy. They're responsible for identifying the root problems. They work really closely with the BA on the solutioning side of things. They're also fundamentally looking out for what the value and expected ROI of the space is. And at a high level, they're consistently across ensuring that what the aims and elements that were identified up front are actually fundamentally being delivered throughout the execution of the project and the initiative overall. The BA comes in really, as you've just said, in kind of that detailed space of going, how do we get from the as is, so where we are now, to the to be, or where we want to get to, and really importantly identifying the differences between where we are today and where we want to get to understand what the impacts are going to be from a change perspective, and all of that stakeholder relationship and documentation that comes alongside that. As a project manager stepping into that, then I am, or the project manager I should say, is really the executor. So creating the plan, and that plan comprises of a number of things, including resource, time, risks, dependencies, critical path, scheduling, etc., etc. I work to remove blockers to facilitate people being able to then execute and deliver on that. And I work in collaboration with the product manager and the BA to ensure that we're always aligning to the fundamental aims and values of the project that we were hoping to achieve from the outset.
So these two have done a fantastic job of describing the roles, and I kind of agree with that completely. So what I'll do is instead talk about some practical examples of how I've applied this currently and how we're applying this, how I've applied this in previous roles. So at Solar Zero right now, we have the three primary roles in our squad. So each squad has a product manager, a delivery lead, which is basically a project manager. It's just called delivery lead because reasons, and a BA. And so my expectation of the product managers is that they're setting the long-term vision for that squad. Where are we going 3 months, 6 months, 1 year from now? What's the value? What are the commercials associated with that? What's the return on investment that we're looking for? What's our business strategy in those areas? They then work with the delivery manager and the BA to break that stuff down into the things we're actually going to do. And so we'll first go into discovery. We'll be taking things into discovery. The BA is helping the product manager there around, what is this thing? What are we doing? What really should we be doing? Is it even feasible? Should we actually even do it? Maybe we won't do it. And the delivery manager is helping to manage that process. And then when we actually then take something into delivery, the delivery manager is working on, how long is this going to take? How much are we spending on our budget? Do we have the right people in our teams? The BA is working with the team on breaking requirements down, writing user stories and things like that. And also helping the team to understand the business side of it as well. And so those are kind of how the three roles sort of play out at Solar Zero. Previous organisation, which I was working with, Harmony, we had a role called product owner. And in actual fact, the product owner role was actually a delivery lead and a BA in one. There's a reason why I don't have that pattern at Solar Zero, because I believe there should actually be two different humans, because it's a lot of work. The poor product owners and Harmonies were very incredibly capable people, but also incredibly busy, hence why we've split that out. So there's a couple of examples of how we've applied that in the real world.
Thank you for sharing. What I want to add on is not.
Did you want to add something?
Saying that Mike, just realized he has a mic.
Yes, she does. Yep, no, it's all good.
Thank you. Just want to add on from what I heard. I think it's not uncommon to see, it's not uncommon for different organizations to have different team structures. Individually, we also have different understanding of each other's role, which can create more differences. So here come to my second question. Can you?
Yeah.
I think it's better. Can you leave it until the Q&A section?
Yep, so write it down.
Thank you. My second question is, can you share an example where you have successfully collaborated with these other roles and what make it successful?
Cool. So I guess an example from Solar Zero right now, we've actually just hired our first amounts of BAs in the team. They've just come on board, so this is a very new thing. So previously, the product manager role in Solar Zero was having to be the BA and to some extent the delivery lead as well. And so we've just brought a BA on board to help out our product managers, and we've brought a delivery lead on board as well. So the current example with the way that's working is that there's a piece of work that we're trying to do to improve a part of our customer funnel to basically get customers through that funnel more easily. So the product manager did a workshop to try and figure out what are all the high-level things that we should actually be trying to address. From that, they then work with the BA to then start to detail out those items, and also working with the delivery lead on getting estimates from the team. How big is it? Is this a sprint? Is it a week? Is it a month? And we currently actually have the first two of those in execution right now. So just recapping that example, high level breakdown at the breaking down to individual items, PM and BA working with delivery lead on sizing and discovery, and then delivery lead on working with the team on delivery.
Cool. We work at the same place, so I'm going to expand on your example. I think the takeaways from the examples that I've got that are really successful in that collaboration space really speak to what Anthony's saying around collaboration between the three roles is really down to frequent, clear communication, and also real respect and understanding for each other's roles and expertise in that space. So an example that I've got is we were doing a bit of a process change to allow individuals to move from quite a kind of linear way of working to a little bit more of a group collaborative portfolio way of working. So it was really important and really helpful, and the product manager was really able to super clearly articulate what we were wanting to achieve, why they'd been able to do that analysis, and had a very easy way of explaining that to the BA. To Anthony's point, the BA was quite new at the time, and it was so helpful for the BA to have a super crystal clear understanding of what they were fundamentally trying to achieve and why, so that when they were talking to stakeholders, they had that context really clearly defined for themselves to be able to come on board to a new organization, which is always quite challenging to pick things up quite quickly, and be able to have really helpful conversations with the stakeholders, document everything really, really clearly. And then to the project manager space, because the BA was new, I was involved a little bit more early than particularly I would have been normally, but that was really helpful as well in terms of that collaboration space to just enable context giving for the BA, who was new and getting up to speed, but context giving for myself and the stakeholders to really ensure that the three roles were super aligned on overall direction from the get-go.
I think we already have a theme here because I will have a similar pattern. It is having a clear goal. One of the most successful projects that I have worked on, the reason it was successful, team collaboration was effective, was that we had a time-bound clear goal. The MVP was so well defined by the product manager that any decision that the team was making, any discussions that were happening, they had their North Star. When they were talking to each other, everybody knew that this is the goal that we're working towards. Everybody agreed with the goal, so the objectives were shared. That means all the discussions that the team was having, the risk management, the communication, the stakeholder engagement was around that goal. The MVP stayed constant, it didn't change. The team delivered, and we actually met that objective. It became one of the success stories. So the thing that makes most difference in making these roles work effectively is having a clear goal. If your goal is not clear, I think the best idea is to go back, clarify that goal, set it as your North Star, and then work on it.
Totally agree. I think it's very important, right, to articulate where we're going to go, how we get there. So I'm very glad to hear the positive case. Now I want to challenge you all a little bit. On the other hand, my question number 3, by the way. On the other hand, could you tell us where you have encountered challenges while collaborating with other roles, and what's the impact?
Easy question.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I mean, this is a constant theme around how we collaborate. So it kind of starts with alignment around what each role understands of each other. So I'm in the fortunate situation as Chief Product Officer and CTO, I get to say how the teams are structured. So it starts with having that executive alignment around this is what these humans actually do. And then for the humans themselves, actually them understanding between themselves what is my role. So we're working through an exercise at the moment doing roles and responsibilities. So we've started out with, here are all the possible responsibilities. Does that belong to the product manager? Does that belong to the project manager? Does that belong to the BA? We have a few other roles in there like tech lead and whatnot as well. So it's actually getting the individuals to agree, this is how we work together. Because every organization is different as well. So, what myself and to some extent Zoe are talking about around how Soul Zero works, that's probably different to how your organization works. And that's okay. We're very high on business process and as well as technology. And so versus a software organization, which might be more high on the technology side versus the business process, it's important for those humans to then actually agree with each other. And so where I've encountered problems is where that didn't happen. So I was doing some consulting work prior to being at Solar Zero, as well as being at Harmony, working with an organization where it wasn't really well understood what those roles were doing from each other. And so there was constant toe standing going on and people getting upset and getting their back up about the fact that, oh, I thought I was supposed to be doing that. Oh, who's managing the budget for this thing? What's the deadline? And the product manager expecting the project manager to be across that, but they weren't because they didn't expect that was what was expected of them. So to me, it's, as I said, where things have always run off the rails has been where the roles don't understand each other. And then when leadership doesn't understand themselves where those roles fit in.
I feel like I'm riffing off your answer.
Plenty of examples.
It's very challenging to deliver and execute against something that's not clearly defined and thought through. So from my perspective, it's really important to ensure time is allowed for the three roles to collaborate up front. There's space given to that and allowed for that. And to earlier points, that there's actual fundamental alignment of the business objective and the goal that you're trying to achieve. If I'm to give a specific example, we had a new market that we were going to, which required a slight product variation, which had then a slight impact on process change. And we, as the project delivery sort of side of things, were asked to basically deliver on this initiative. But there hadn't been the space allowed for the discovery up front, and there hadn't been the right skill sets given to that space up front to define what the product was that we wanted to offer and to define how we fundamentally wanted to offer that. So the consequence or the impact of that, I guess if you're asking that, is we were unable to deliver on something that hadn't had that work done up front. We had to push back on that. We had to say, this work is important and this is why. We had to find the resource to do that discovery work. That work had to then be done, and the overall initiative delivery was delayed by a number of months in order to accommodate that. And it stemmed from lack of alignment between the three roles and across the business as to what the fundamental goal and business objectives were, as to how each of those spaces was fundamentally prioritizing that initiative against other pieces of work.
We did not meet before to consolidate our answers, but my answer is along the same theme. As a business analyst, the few fundamental problems that I see, one is most of the organizations, they are more focused on doing agile rather than being agile. So product owners, they just think that they are bosses of the BAs. They don't realize that BAs are there to support them, and they are part of the overall team. They are not their sidekicks. That is one of the biggest problems that we face as BAs. The second problem that we've come across quite often is that product managers, they've got an emotional attachment with the product. So when you actually debunk their myths, tell them the facts, it doesn't sit so well with them. Like in one of my roles, we came across a product owner came across a product idea. There was a squad that was working on it, and we realized that the numbers don't add up. We got back to her and discussed, but she's like, no, this is what we are going to do. So it actually caused so many conflicts in the team because the team wasn't agreeing on the common goal. Everybody was not committed fully. And as Agile, if you don't have a shared vision and a shared goal, you'll always have conflicts. The team had so much, like so many people were quitting that team throughout. Eventually, I think after 2 or 3 rounds, the product was actually scrapped. I think it would have helped a lot if the investment decisions around value are like, what I've realized is that in most of the organizations, they don't measure value post delivery. If there is a structure around it, that'll actually have more responsibility on how the product ideas are built and measured, so that people are more responsible in proposing and delivering products.
So based on what you just shared with us, I have a follow-up question, especially for Zoe, about the case you shared with us. If you could turn back the time, what could you do differently?
I think you like to frame it as, lessons learned. But I think from my perspective, it's really being more, advocating more strongly and in a more structured way about the pitfalls of not doing the necessary work up front, and working out how you need to frame that conversation to be most impactful to the stakeholders that you're working with and liaising with. From my perspective and from my specific example, I would have gone back and I would work with the product manager to firstly, I think, understand why there was an alignment at a strategic level that we were supposed to be working on this initiative or not, and then almost create a business case for it and go, this is why this work is really important. This is what needs to be done in order to drive this forward, and present that in a way with examples or with cost benefit analysis, value, ROI, et cetera, to key stakeholders across the business to ask why there wasn't alignment, to get alignment, and then to understand, is this project a priority or is it not? In which case, use this business case or don't, really. But yeah, if I could turn back time.
Yes, feel free to.
For just a second. So something in my coaching, I work with organizations. I talk about storytelling. Every organization has a story of something that went horribly wrong. Every organization has them. And it's a matter of, because you can say to a stakeholder, oh, we should do it differently next time. And they're like, yeah, whatever, you guys just didn't work hard enough. But if you can actually frame a story around, well, hey, you remember that time that we didn't do proper discovery on this thing, and this was the outcome. So it's about linking the outcome back to the real underlying cause, as opposed to, oh, we just didn't requirements hard enough. Actually, we just didn't do discovery right because we didn't have time for it. It's bringing that story out when a stakeholder tries to push you into not doing discovery next. Oh, of course we know all about this already. We should just do it. Yeah, but do you remember the time when? And having that story ready. You have to be a bit circumspect about how you pick that story, because sometimes it can be challenging to certain stakeholders because they might feel like it's their fault. So you've got to be a bit diplomatic. But yes, just having those stories ready to bring out and kind of go, look, you remember the time when to use this persuasion to kind of do things properly.
So if there was something that we could do differently about that, would be that we go back and reevaluate the MVP. Because MVP is not fluid. By definition, MVP is minimum viable product. That means all the work has already been done to define that this is the least possible thing that we are going to deliver. But over time, they keep scraping the scope. So one thing is that your MVP has to be very solid and it has to be actual MVP. Secondly, your business case. It doesn't matter that you have a product idea that you want to deliver it in a certain way. Maybe by in-depth analysis, you realize that just slightly repositioning the same product can actually make a lot of difference. So it's more like you have to be open around reevaluating your business case, consider multiple options, and dive deeper, get your hands dirty, look at the actual numbers, and you'll see the possibilities. So again, go back and re-clarify the goal.
That's a good point. Okay, at this point, we covered a good collaboration, and we also covered the challenges for the collaboration. To summarize, my question 5, please. To summarize, what we have discussed, what strategies and tools would you recommend to our audience tonight for better collaboration for better future collaboration?
So it's one of those things that every organization, there's the perfect answer, and then there's what practically you can do inside your organization. So the key tools for me, firstly, is alignment and leadership. I mentioned that before. Does leadership actually understand those roles? So that's the first part of kind of the toolkit. Do the roles understand each other? That was the second part. We mentioned that earlier on. The third is just basically the agile principles and Scrum. Are we going through and iteratively working together? Do those key roles actually work together and collaborate around the iterations that the team is actually working on? So those are that's the sort of three simple tools. Are we aligned? Do we understand each other? And then are we working together effectively?
You've taken all the good answers. I think I agree with what Anthony said. I think on top of that, I'd sort of add to the point of my example that didn't go so well, really allowing the space to complete the groundwork up front and understanding and acknowledging and being aligned amongst yourselves in the three roles as to the importance of doing that work. I think sometimes you can get into a situation where if somebody wants to jump to the delivery, they'll go to the project manager and sort of say, it's really easy, I can just get it straight into delivery. And it's the consistent answer amongst all three roles to go, no, we need to lay the groundwork for this. We need to be consistent. We need to be aligned with what we're fundamentally trying to get out of discovery before we move into delivery. Maintaining good communication between all the parties as the project progresses all the way through to completion and beyond. And I think sometimes it's really important that the product manager is the person who's fundamentally owning the value and the ROI and the alignment to the overall strategy and the moving of the needle that they were trying to move. They need to be at a high level involved in the project all the way through post delivery and right through to actual close of the project to go, did this actually do what we thought it was going to do? And they need to be across that for the whole length of the project, not leave, come back in 6 months or 9 months or a year and discover that it didn't actually do what they thought it was going to do, but they've stepped away and missed a crucial point in the project where that veered off course a little bit. And I think, again, the final one for me is just people come from different organizations previously, different experiences, different understanding of the way in which people like to work with each other or the way in which people have worked with each other in the past, and just that expectation almost resetting when new people join the team, when a project's been lasting for a really long time and you want to just freshen it up a little bit, just going, hey, how are we expecting to work and engage with each other? Are we continuing to do that? And if not, let's tweak something and have an open and upfront conversation that it's not working in this way, but I'd like to work more collaboratively in this way.
So one thing that I've already said, that most of the organizations, they are too focused on doing agile. It would help if most of the organizations, they are focused on being agile. That means that more effort is made in building the agile mindset among the teams. That means the teams, they are able to collaborate more effectively. There's mutual respect, communication, and all of that. That's around the team structure. And for decision making and collaboration, I think the best tool that I could recommend is a whiteboard. Everything has to be discussed on a whiteboard. When you're building a vision, you use a whiteboard so that everybody can actually see what's happening. There are so many online tools as well, like Whiteboard, Miro, you can use any of those. And third is calling out all the assumptions. Like most of the time what happens is there are too many assumptions that are made and everybody assumes that everybody knows that assumption. That's mostly not the case. So all the assumptions, they need to be called out earlier so that every decision making is done on a common fact. I think these few things will significantly improve collaboration, but eventually it comes down to individuals, how effectively they are willing to communicate with each other.
If I can just riff on the whiteboard / Miro thing for a moment. So one of my key sort of discoveries from everyone going remote is it's really easy to be on a Teams call, Google Meet, whatever your collaboration software is of choice for your organization. Everybody's talking. Talk. Everybody's talking about a thing. Can somebody please press the top left button on there again, please? Thank you. For those on the live stream who can't see what's going on, the lights keep on going off in the room. So everyone's on the live stream talking. Maybe the lights are going off. And what I'll do sometimes is I'll just pop up a Miro board and start writing notes and sharing that with everyone. And you'd be amazed how many times I've had like, oh, no, that wasn't what I meant. Oh, no, we talked about that thing. We didn't talk about that thing. And it's so easy to not be able to see those misunderstandings when it's just conversation. As soon as you put a shared artifact together and start capturing notes in that shared artifacts, then the misalignment, the places where we're not collaborating effective come out. So just try, if there's one thing you can take away from today, try that. Just, and if you're on a call, just pop something up. It doesn't have to be a Miro board. It can be a notepad or, Google Doc or Word doc, whatever, and just start writing in front of everyone. It's the equivalent of getting up on the whiteboard and writing things, because then people will call you out. No, that wasn't what I meant.
You have more thought, Kai? Okay. Thank you for the valuable recommendation. Now, I want to explore this topic further. My question 6 is about leadership, which Anthony, you kind of covered before. But welcome to share your further thought. In your opinion, what do leaders need to do better or differently to improve collaborations for project managers, product managers, and business analysts?
This is a tough question, because I this is literally my job. And I mean, what I find really interesting, we've talked a lot in the product community over the years about getting some of the thinking that we do in the product community into the C-suite, into the C-levels. I have that title, and honestly, it's people who have had our experience actually moving into leadership roles. And I hate to say that it's generational, because I don't mean it in terms of age. I mean that cohort of people who have had those frustrations actually growing and moving into leader roles, and they're not forgetting about those frustrations and actually, sharing it with their other peers. People from the finance team, they don't understand this stuff, but they need to, because they have to fund it. So it's actually representing that to the other areas of the business at the leadership level. But that's something you don't have to be in the C-suite to be able to do that. It might be a team lead or a practice lead or something like that. That person is responsible for advocating for why that collaboration is important, why those roles are important. So then turning that around a wee bit for the people who are at the coalface doing the work, you actually have to spend some time, and it's going to sound a bit negative, but you have to actually make sure that the rest of the organization understands what you do. And if they don't understand what you do, work with your line manager, with your practice manager, with whoever that works in your organization, to make sure that that's well understood. Run that roles and responsibilities workshop that I mentioned earlier on. That understanding is so key, because never, ever, ever underestimate, in the same way we'll be talking about, lack of collaboration due to miscommunication, that applies writ large across the organization. Don't assume that other people in your organization know what a project manager does, know what a product manager does, know what a BA does. Be an advocate for those roles and how they collaborate together.
Cool. I think I'd probably sum it up in one word that's been covered already this evening, which is really around clarity. And I mean that in 2 different ways. So I think, to Anthony's point, being really able to be really clear on the delineation between the roles and what the roles are and what their remit is, both from a sense then that you're empowering the individual to fill that space, to own that, to feel confident that they have your support to own and manage that space, and you're going to back them. They also then have the confidence that, as Anthony said, the wider business is really clear on what they do, the value that they add, and you're also trying to make really consistent the conversation directions that are happening. So the wider business understands, I have an idea that I've got in this realm, I go consistently to this person about it. And you're just trying to remove a lot of those, can I go around this person to get the answer that I want from someone else? Or I don't really know who to talk to, so I'm going to send an email to 5 people and hope that one of them is the right person, sort of thing. So you're really just trying to make it really clear, this is the space that my person occupies as a product manager or a project manager or a BA, and this is who you need to talk to. They're empowered in that space. And the second part of the clarity for me is fundamentally aligning to the overall business strategy. So really depending on the size of an organization and its structure, you can have a very minimal gap between a C-suite exec level and the doers and the product manager and the people, or you can have a very large gap that has quite a few roles in between that. And that can impact your ability to have consistent understanding of where the business is fundamentally wanting to go. And if you're not consistent and clear and aligned on that, as we've spoken about earlier, you're going to have a product manager who believes that strategy 1 is the most important thing, a BA who believes that strategy 2 is the most important thing, and a project manager who believes that strategy 3 is the most important thing, and they're going to get confused as to why they're not able to agree on what we're meant to be working on next.
So one thing that leaders can do better is have better understanding, like communicate effectively to the teams what are their roles and responsibilities. What I have found that most of the BAs, they get misunderstood in the context that BAs operate at multiple level. Some BAs, they operate at an enterprise level, and some actually operate at user story level, if I could put it that way. So it's more around understanding at which level the BA that you're engaging with is working, and making sure that their roles and responsibilities, they are clearly defined. Like a BA could work with a project manager in defining the project scope, but then there would be a limit to how much BA will support the project manager, making sure that they don't interfere in each other's work, but at the same time support and make sure that they deliver the value that is expected of them. When it comes to product, it's again the same thing. Like if you look at, say, if I just take an example of how things are done in Scrum, there are different stages, like from the very start till retrospective. In each stage, there is a role that each of these functions performs, making sure that those are clear to the team so that when they're working together, they stay in their limits, there is mutual respect and nobody is stepping on each other's toes. And what management can secondly do is defining value, like how teams are defining value and delivering value. If there is a measurement upfront and accountability later on, that will mean that you will actually be consistent in how value will be delivered. And the last part is having a clear definition, like being agile rather than doing agile.
Thank you so much. This is very insightful. What I want to add on is, I agree with you, Anthony. The fundamental understanding of each other's role is very important, because the leader have the right fundamental understanding will ensure the leader allocate the right resources to the project. And also, if there's any collaboration problem arise, the leader can get it straight away. What's the problem? And they can resolve it effectively. Okay, and thank you so much. And I hope the leaders among us can get some insight from this. Due to time constraint, and now we finish this discussion. I will now let's open the floor to the audience. If anyone has questions, please raise your hand.
Whoa, well, that's good. No shortage of questions
Okay.
out there.
Can we
just
go
a
to that gentleman?
reminder to the panelists that we will need to repeat your questions so that the people online hear them. So who are we going to start with?
Can we go there?
Oh, that's okay. You call it out and I'll repeat it.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a segue from this question.
Yeah.
If you don't,
no, that's okay.
Do you need it?
if you understand the role and the exec team does not understand, what suggestions do you have and how to help the leadership team understand the difference between roles?
So the question was, if so you're presumably an individual contributor in this example. You're seeing misalignment in the roles, and the leaders don't understand that. What should you do? Call it out. To start off with. don't sit and stew on it. Don't make assumptions that your leader doesn't know that that's a problem. So make sure that you're calling out and having that conversation. But before just going straight to your leader, align with your peers. So work with your peer roles. around, do you between those three roles actually understand each other? Again, run a workshop to try and actually tease that out, figure out what the misalignments are. And then one approach is just tell your leader, this is what we do. They may not necessarily have an opinion, or invite them into that roles and responsibilities workshop. Definitely don't wait for them to tell you, because you might not like the answer. Figure it out amongst yourselves and then pass it on.
That's a good answer.
Can we go to the gentleman behind you, because
Yep.
he wants
Nick
to
had a
ask.
question earlier on.
Okay, I'm Nick. I work as a PA at the moment. So my first question is for Zoe. So Zoe, you said that the BAs work on how, in your opinion. So I would kind of slightly disagree with that. And so I wanted you to elaborate on that, why you see that the BAs work on how. In my opinion, BAs also work on
If the light off could help us to
why and what, not the how. And because the requirements are not the how. The requirements are on why and what. And the how is on the development team, usually in the software organization. So we can suggest the solution, but we don't define the solution, because the BAs don't invent the requirements. They create the requirements out of the information they receive from different sources. So I wanted you to clarify that.
Yeah, sure.
By how.
So yeah, I'm going to repeat. So the question was sort of earlier in one of my answers, I had indicated that product managers were what and why, BAs were how, and project management executors. And the question is sort of, can I elaborate on that answer, because BAs are probably also in the what and why space, and what do I mean when I say how from a BA perspective? So to answer that, I obviously mean that BAs are obviously in the what and why as well, but from my perspective, where I get so much value from the BA role is, if you aren't fully and properly mapping as is to be, you're really setting yourself up from a delivery point of view to potentially miss some really important differences between where you are today and where you want to get to. So the BA is absolutely involved in the conversations from a product manager space as well. For me, the product manager really owns that long-term strategic vision, the why we're fundamentally deciding to do this initiative. And so as a one-worder, I say product manager does own the why. And the how for me is, at a conceptual level, product managers identified this is a really important initiative, this is the root problem we're trying to solve, this is how much we want to move the needle by or achieve, or et cetera, et cetera. And I need to work with a BA to then translate that as quite a vague concept into what does that actually mean in practice. Because, user stories are obviously a very fundamental and helpful part of it. If you're creating user stories in isolation from a process that's clearly articulated and identified, sometimes what you're going to end up with is either user stories that contradict each other or conflict with each other, and you're potentially building to a user story that then actually negates to a certain extent another user story that you've potentially identified, or you're possibly missing out on non-happy path considerations to a process change, for example. So what I mean by how is just really in that detail of how do we get from A to B. I absolutely don't mean that BAs aren't involved in the what and the why as well. It's just really, if I was in a one-worder, for me, it's the BA is that logical, considered, pragmatic, actual boots on the ground documentation of that how. But absolutely take your point, they're super involved in the what and the why as well.
Extend that. This is a context. Organizational context matters here. So we work in, as I mentioned earlier on, we work in an organization where actually we have a lot of business process as well as the technology that supports that process. And this is actually something I get a wee bit wound up when I hear the notion that BAs don't deliver on the how. Well, actually they do. BAs build a business process. Part of the deliverable for that team might be a new business process and the training around getting there. That is as valid a delivery as a piece of software or a piece of engineering. It is as much a how as that. And, that's really where the BAs are really participating in the team. I know there was another question that we had online around in an empowered team, why do you need a BA? Well, it's actually because, as I said, in an organization like ours where we've got business and tech, there is a strong role for that BA in terms of actually delivering alongside the software delivery. It's the customer outcome, for us at least, doesn't only come from software. It comes from a bunch of processes. It comes from hardware in our case as well, actually. And the customer doesn't get the value until all of those things come together. And so the BA is as much a developer, in inverted commas, as the software engineers.
Do you have any thought?
Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I have another one for you, Zoe. A short one. So you are a delivery manager lead.
Yes.
So is the delivery manager the new word for the project manager in the agile world?
I thought it was an easy question. So the question was, is the job title, I guess what you're asking, is the job title project manager redundant and being replaced by things like delivery leaders moving forward? And the responsibilities.
Replacing project managers.
Yeah. So I think PMP is a good example. It depends on the organization that you're in. So my background is more in that traditional project management space. So I have expectations previously of having done a lot of the work that a product manager or BA might fill now. So the scoping, the discovery, the process writing, et cetera, et cetera. That's still really valid and relevant in a range of companies, organizations, and depending on types of initiatives they want to deliver. There does have to, I think, be, particularly if you're wanting to be more agile in the space, there does have to be an understanding that the project manager role is probably moving more into a project delivery role. And again, it's that expectations and role clarification is so key, because you don't want to hire a project manager who has expectations of doing the role of a BA and then stepping on toes and causing friction. I think that it really depends on if the organization's super agilely run, as to if that is going to be an expectation of you're really more on project delivery. You'll be consulted on scope, or you'll be consulted on the what and the why and how we're going to get there, but you don't own that space anymore. But there are organizations where I think it swings and balances. It really depends on the organization you're working with. I think at Solar Zero, we are probably moving slightly in that direction of project delivery space. Because of the nature of what we do and how we want to be working in discovery, pausing, reflecting, moving into delivery, and being able to build up those product manager, BA, project delivery lead officially at Solar Zero roles. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Zoe.
Yeah, and also to riff on that for a minute, so that title is actually my fault. I created that title there, and the reason that I called it a delivery lead, not a project manager, is because I'm looking for certain behaviors that I don't necessarily see in somebody who's only ever had project manager in their title. We're not a waterfall shop. We work on products. We talk about projects, but our projects in our language is an iteration of our product, and our teams actually own that for the long term. It's not do a project, walk away. It's sort of reflective. And so I'm wanting to make sure that when we're hiring, we're setting expectations that it's not just a a project manager that we're after. And then there's the agile aspect to it as well. Like that person has an aspect of Scrum Master, Agile Coach in the JD as well. And so, Zoe and I have talked about this at length. Because we're hiring for this role, by the way. So if you're interested, please come see me or Zoe. We are hiring these humans right now. We wanted to make sure that we were getting people who actually their fundamental skill set is as a project manager, but they understood the world of product. They understood the world of operating in an agile environment. Hence the name change. Words matter in this context.
Good discussion. So let's take another question. Okay. The lady in the back, in the black. Yeah.
Okay. Hi. Yeah.
Oh, in the back. In black.
We'll go to you next. Sorry.
Okay. Yes.
Sorry.
You next one.
Anthony, I'm interested in what are you seeing sort of from a culture fit and reward situation. So, are these things aligned? So if everyone's a culture and to be collaborative, but I've worked in organizations where they still reward silo behavior. And I've seen it quite successfully when the reward system has changed to say, let's say you get part of your bonus relies on teamwork and collaboration, and that's a shared goal. And then it becomes a part of the conversation if somebody just isn't equipped for that. So we're just seeing what you thought about that, and also what it means for our Gen Zs and millennials, the workforce of the future. because I've been reading some stuff and Agile and the Future, there was some stuff about that. I was really interested. It's really interesting that they don't necessarily all like resolve collaboratively.
So the question was around, how does culture and incentives play a role in all of this? How do we make sure that we're not incentivizing siloed behavior within those roles and within our organizations? And then how does that play out in terms of sort of the generations, millennials and whatnot that are coming through, millennials and Gen Zs that are coming through our workforce? So for me, we talked about goals quite a lot. We make sure that incentives are aligned around the goal that we're going for, where that goal is a company goal, an actual overall business outcome. For Solar Zero, our overall goal is the number of solar systems that we put on people's roofs. We're trying to achieve a month-on-month target. And all of our roles are incentivized around that. So it's actually incentivizing on that customer outcome, on the outcome that we're trying to get, not individual delivery behaviors. And I mean, that's kind of interesting. I mean, it's not something that I've studied in depth in terms of motivation of millennials and Gen Zs, but I've had a lot of conversation, particularly with younger people, around wanting to work for a company that has a good mission. And so to me, I translate that into saying, well, that goal has to be something that people actually believe in. Like actually the previous organization I worked for as well, this was a thing, trying to change the internal language of the business from, this is the business metric that we're trying to move. We're trying to move conversion from X to Y to we're trying to help customers and actually try and turn it around to being that customer focus. I'm kind of fortunate with Solar Zero. We're trying to fix climate change. That's a really easy mission to buy and come work for us, by the way, because it's a great mission. Subtle. But it is that company mission. And I also actually think that companies that don't have that mission, don't have that really appealing mission, are going to struggle to attract and retain talent for that reason, because it messes with the culture. It messes with, generations that are coming through.
Thank you, Anthony. So can we go with Do you have any other thoughts? Yes.
Should we have a question in the front?
Just a little background for this question. Yes, I just moved to New Zealand 2 months ago. Yes, so I just started the job seeking in these two months. So actually, during the interview, I heard about not only 3 roles. Also have a product manager and a product owner.
Mm-hmm.
Also the business analysis and something else, so Scrum Master or project manager and audio lead. So I'm very interested about how what's the difference between the product manager and the product owner. Yeah.
The reason I'm answering this, so her question is, she has recently moved to New Zealand and she's looking for a job, and she's interested in product owner, project manager, business analyst, and Scrum Master. What's the difference between these? So I'll tell you something. I moved to New Zealand like 5 years ago. I had to apply to 400 jobs before I got my first job. I was told I don't have New Zealand experience. Now, the thing is that how well your CV matches with the job description, like there are tools that you can use online that, because you have to actually go back. It's not just looking at the job description and applying for it. You actually have to go for an interview as well. The difference between those roles is project manager, they are more focused on delivery. Product managers, they are focused on product lifecycle. Scrum Master is a scam. Business analysts, they are more of business analysts, they are more of like detail oriented. Now you have to look at your background experience and see which job you're most aligned with and focus on that one. If you apply to multiple ones, you'll have a challenge, because then people will get confused. Who are you? You have to first reflect on yourself, find your identity, which role you best align with. You'll have to go through lots of job descriptions within Seek and identify the patterns and stick to those patterns.
Sorry, the difference between the product manager and the product owner.
Yeah. Product manager is more at a higher level. Product manager defines the product strategy. Product owner represents that strategy within the team.
So who defines the backlog?
The backlog is defined by the product owner, driven by the product manager's product strategy.
Got it.
So product owner basically engages with the product manager and the wider stakeholders to get that product backlog.
So I love this question, because actually the answer is It depends. Every organization is different. The one thing the advice to you would be, learn how to ask the questions to understand how it works in their environment. And it might just be as simple as, so tell me what a product owner does in your organization compared to your product managers. Actually interview the organization to really understand it, because it will vary. You know, Ty has described one variation where the product manager is kind of looking more forwards and the product owner is doing the day-to-day delivery with the team. I worked for a company who did that. My company, we don't have product owners. You know, it's effectively, you know, we're doing that role within those people. I've heard of the role of chief product owner, which is actually a product manager. So, and we can thank Scrum for this. Yay, Scrum, thank you for that product owner role. Everybody does it differently. Like literally every organization does it differently. There's not much predictability. So read the JD or the ad, try and infer as much as possible. But in the interview, don't be afraid to say, what the hell does this role do? And how does it compare to XYZ role? You know, make sure you're drilling into that.
Okay, thank you. Because time constraint, let's take a final question. Okay, the gentleman.
Hi, my name is Mustafa and I'm an agile coach, mainly focusing on transformation. I've also had experience being a Scrum Officer, Scrum Master.
Yeah. We're going to need to have that conversation about Scrum Master, aren't we? For those online, the gentleman who's asking the question has been a Scrum Master.
So my question is, like everyone have been through a journey, and there is always that team that is probably the perfect team that you always keep recalling as perfect example of how the team is going to be. And the team that I usually stick in my mind off top of my mind was a product team. And that product team was, they didn't have business analysts. They didn't have Scrum Master. Basically, there was a product owner and a development team. And the thing is that that product owner had previously had experience being a business analyst. Do you think that this is something that is going to go more common in the future? We have self-managed teams that have less layers of roles, and the people really within the team that can share the responsibilities.
So the question is, the gentleman has worked with teams where there actually isn't there isn't a BA in the team. You know, the team are kind of self-managing and self-organizing around that. An interesting question, because I've kind of played with this a bit, because I'm a massive believer in empowered self-organizing teams and that the teams do this stuff. But you know what? Is there really a giant purpose served in someone who's an amazing Java developer diving deeply into understanding a business process? Or a test, somebody whose skills are, they're an amazing QA engineer diving deeply into design. These specialties kind of exist for a reason, and they can bring that to the table. But then we start to talk about T and E-shaped people who, personally, I started my career as a developer, and I developed that sort of T around the business side, business analysis, project management, and whatnot, and actually was able to take on some of those roles as well. And so if the team is able to support each other in those different roles, then that's great. But at the end of the day, if you really want to do some hardcore business analysis, business analyst is probably the person who's best served to do that. But, and this is something that Zoe and I have had some conversations around this, is that sometimes actually heck, we don't have the thing ready. We're not sure what this thing is. We need to do the discovery. We talked earlier on about the importance of doing discovery. Holy heck, the product manager hasn't finished discovery. Great, the whole team is now involved in discovery. So that developer, that amazing Java developer, we might need them to go out and do some market research for us. Or that amazing QA engineer, we might need them to go and figure out what's the right metric that we're chasing, because the product manager and the BA is overloaded, they're just trying to get stuff ready. We're all a team, we're all heading towards that goal collectively.
Yeah. So when you say that a team can function without a BA, yes, a team can function without a BA. A car can run without an engine. Just somebody has to push it.
That's a good
Because
analogy.
the thing is, BAs bring special skills that you need in your teams, which is looking beyond what's obvious. When you're putting a Java developer or a QA engineer to do the discovery, they will just look at how are they going to solve that problem, what is the acceptance criteria. But there is a deeper question that needs to be answered, is why. That is what BAs bring to the team. BAs basically support the team in making sure that the team does what they are best at, and by making sure that what they are doing is actually delivering value. So BA scope is much larger than just looking at that individual squad. They go back and reflect on all the assumptions that have been made. So you can function without a BA. It's more like, but eventually, like, I worked in multiple organizations where they decided that, oh, we don't need BAs. They made all the BAs redundant. After 6 weeks, they started calling all the BAs that we've got a contract. Do you want to come back? So you can go with that assumption, but it will be debunked pretty soon that yes, squads do need BAs, especially when you're doing work that requires exploration, because BAs bring those skills that help.
I think for the purpose of time, I agree with what you said.
Cool.
That's a great answer, Ty.